and from Americans United for Separation of Church and State. Since 1946, AU has supported the First Amendment right of freedom of religion. More at au.org. From Chapter, offering Medicare advice to seniors nationwide and working to find the plans that best fit their needs. Advisors are available by dialing pound 250 and saying the keyword Medicare Help. And from the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation at macfound.org.
Hey, psst, come here. Want to know a little secret?
Turn left.
Many of the news stories that you read in Gothamist and here on WNYC start with tips from listeners. If you have access to important information that you think you should share with our newsroom, get in touch. Send us an email, give us a call, or you can even contact us through an encrypted messaging service. Just go to gothamist.com/tips and share your story.
WNYC is supported by Amanda plus James and Hoi Polloi presenting Family, a surreal darkly comic play by Celine Song, writer-director of Past Lives and this summer's Materialist, now through September 28th at La Mama. Tickets at lamama.org.
Turn left on
You're listening to
Drive.
WNYC. It's 82 degrees. I'm Stephen Nesson. Just ahead, All Things Considered starts at 4. And stay tuned tonight at 8. It's On Point. The Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals hears cases from Louisiana, Mississippi, Texas. It has a reputation as one of the most conservative courts in the country. It hasn't always been that way. Find out on tonight's On Point. That starts at 8 on WNYC. Thank you for listening.
Turn left at the traffic light.
This is WNYC, FM, HD, and AM New York.
Jimmy Kimmel is back on the air tonight, but about a quarter of ABC stations in the U.S. won't be showing the late night talk show. On a Tuesday, this is All Things Considered on WNYC. Good afternoon, I'm Stephen Nesson. Also this hour, President Trump says pregnant women who take Tylenol risk having a child with autism. Researchers who've studied the issue have reached a different conclusion.
We found that there was an association with increased risk of autism and ADHD, but association is not causation.
More on why that distinction is so important. And Gaza City residents say Western countries' recognition of a Palestinian state has no bearing on their current reality. This comes as a hospital courtyard has become a graveyard, as Israel's offensive intensifies. It's all coming up after the news.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. A federal jury in Florida finds Ryan Ruth guilty of plotting to assassinate Donald Trump. The attempt to shoot Trump at one of his golf courses was the second attack on Trump last year during his presidential campaign. NPR's Greg Allen is at the courthouse in Fort Pierce, Florida, with more on today's verdict.
The jury deliberated just 2 hours before returning their verdict. Ruth, they said, is guilty of attempted assassination and 4 other counts, including assaulting a federal officer, the Secret Service agent who spotted and fired on him at his hiding place at Trump's golf course. Upon hearing the verdict, Ruth tried to stab himself with a pen before federal marshals quickly subdued him.
NPR's Greg Allen reporting. President Trump denounced the violence against him and congratulated the Justice Department on Ruth's prosecution. Trump commented on the verdict to reporters traveling with him at the UN General Assembly earlier today. He delivered a lengthy speech to world leaders gathered in New York for the 80th session of the UN General Assembly and railed against the international body. NPR's Frank Ordonez reports Trump's becoming...
In 1/2 mile, turn left on Garden State Parkway. Turn left at the traffic light.
Special Agent Matt Cool of the New York Field Office says the situation is now under control.
This network had the potential to disable cell phone towers and essentially shut down the cellular network.
Jones Beach employee. Hurban was arrested in July 2023, about 13 years after the remains of a missing woman were found near Gilgo Beach.
Metro North riders commuting from the Hudson Valley will soon have more time in their day. Starting October 6th, new Super Express trains will cut the ride from Poughkeepsie to Grand Central to just 90 minutes. The trip from Beacon will take less than an hour and 15. Governor Hochul explains the math.
For our daily commuters, we're saving 14 minutes off your trip, 70 minutes a week. It's a game changer for people.
The state accelerated the launch by a full year after making some key upgrades. It is currently 82 degrees. You're listening to WNYC.
Support for NPR comes from the Lilly Endowment, a private foundation supporting NPR's coverage of religion and spirituality, and Jarl and Pamela Moon, focusing on civil liberties, foster youth, public radio, and the arts.
On a Tuesday, it's All Things Considered from NPR News. I'm Mary Louise Kelly.
And I'm Wanda Summers. The Trump administration's take on Tylenol and autism has led to confusion. It has put doctors who treat people who are pregnant or families with young children on the front lines of helping patients understand the evidence. NPR's Allison Aubrey reports.
Dr. Nicole Baldwin is a pediatrician in Cincinnati, and when she was pregnant with her own child, she took a bad fall and was in pain.
And if I hadn't had Tylenol to take, I can't imagine the suffering I would have had for 2 months, because there's no other options. There are no other medications that these pregnant women can take.
After yesterday's announcement from President Trump telling pregnant women not to take it, the American Academy of Pediatrics issued a statement pointing to dangerous claims and misleading information. And the American College of Obstetrics and Gynecology has affirmed the safety and benefits of Tylenol during pregnancy. So what to make of President Trump's advice? There is no evidence that acetaminophen causes autism. Even the FDA acknowledges that it's noticed to doctors after yesterday's announcement. But the Trump administration has pointed to studies that have found a link between autism and Tylenol. However, a link doesn't mean much. It can be a coincidence or a fluke. I talked to Dr. Baldwin about this, and she brought up a great example. The link, what scientists call a correlation, between shark bites and ice cream. In the summertime, both increase. more people eat ice cream, and there are more shark bites. But does one cause the other? Of course not.
And so if you can say, oh yeah, I know buying ice cream doesn't cause me to get attacked by a shark, then you could understand just because something is correlated at the same time, it doesn't mean that it's actually causing anything.
Scientists wrestle a lot with the difference between correlation and causation. Take Brian Lee. He's a professor of epidemiology and biostatistics at Drexel University. And a few years back, he collaborated with researchers in Sweden. In the first part of the study, they compared children who had been exposed to Tylenol, which is a trade name for the drug acetaminophen, with children who had not been exposed in the womb. And they did see a small statistical association linking Tylenol use to autism.
We found that there was an association with increased risk of autism and ADHD. But autism is a very heritable condition, and association is not causation.
So he tried to drill down on this question by comparing siblings. Specifically, he and his colleagues looked at cases where one child had been exposed to acetaminophen during pregnancy and the other had not.
When we did the sibling analysis, the association completely disappeared. In other words, the association was not a causal one, and it was most likely due to other factors like genetics, infections, fevers, that sort of thing.
He says it's likely that a combination of factors are involved in causing autism, but acetaminophen probably isn't one of them. Lee says the kind of study that could put this issue to rest to more definitively show that this common medication is not an underlying cause of autism is unlikely to happen.
The gold standard for science is the randomized controlled trial, and you can't exactly do this with pregnant women. It's not really ethical to do that.
That would require asking participants during pregnancy to refrain from using the one medicine that has been shown to be safe to treat fever and pain. Tylenol was first introduced in the 1950s and has been used by millions of people for decades. Doctors around the globe say it's safe to use during pregnancy, and there is no evidence it causes autism in children. Allison Aubrey, NPR News.
Jimmy Kimmel Live is back on ABC tonight. The comedian has been off the air for nearly a week after what ABC parent Disney called, quote, ill-timed and thus insensitive comments about the suspect in Charlie Kirk's killing. But roughly a quarter of the country's ABC broadcast affiliates still won't be showing his return to late night. For more on this, I am joined by NPR culture correspondent Chloe Feldman. Hey there, Chloe.
Hey there, Mary Louise.
Well, unpick this for us. Kimmel is back because Disney is bringing him back, but multiple stations will still be preempting the show. Why? What are they holding out for?
Well, broadcaster Nexstar, which operates 32 ABC stations around the country, said in a statement today that it's waiting on assurance that, quote, all parties are committed to fostering an environment of respectful, constructive dialogue in the markets we serve. Now, Nexstar was the first to pull Kimmel's show last week after the chair of the FCC took issue with how Kimmel spoke about the suspect in Charlie Kirk's murder. But it's important to note that Nexstar is in the middle of a major merger. It's waiting on FCC approval to acquire Tegna, which also owns TV stations around the country. And also there's this other broadcasting group, Sinclair, which also says it's still going to preempt the show. It's got 30 stations and 30 markets. It's got stations in 30 markets, and the company said yesterday it's still in discussions with ABC about the show's potential return. Last week, Sinclair had called on Kimmel to apologize to Charlie Kirk's family and make a personal donation to his organization, Turning Point USA.
To apologize and make a donation, did Jimmy Kimmel do those things?
Well, if he has, they certainly haven't been made public.
So what is the calculation that Disney is making here in bringing him back tonight?
The company's balancing a few things here. Last week, after they suspended Kimmel under pressure from the Trump administration, Disney started getting major blowback from its stars. Yesterday, hundreds of big-name artists, including Olivia Rodrigo, Tom Hanks, and Pedro Pascal, signed on to an open letter published by the ACLU speaking out against Kimmel's suspension. And it's not just artists telling Disney what they think either. Members of the public have been cancelling their Disney Plus streaming service subscriptions and their vacations at Disney resorts. I spoke with Los Angeles entertainment attorney Jonathan Handel, and he says this is just the beginning of a widespread boycott emerging in the fight for free speech.
And Disney is very sensitive to consumer perception and to consumer boycotts. which might explain their thinking here about putting Jimmy Kimmel back on the air.
I'm trying to think through, though, Chloe, where this might go. What happens if local stations continue to not show his show?
Jonathan Handel says ABC actually has some leverage with local stations. The network can threaten to prevent them from airing really popular content like football and basketball.
All those sports rights that people are desperate to see when their team is playing, when their person is fighting, whatever it is, they want that, they expect it on their local stations. And they're paying good money to access those local stations.
And Handel adds that local stations are quite dependent on national programming to retain audiences. Late-night TV shows are part of that equation.
Any sense of what to expect on tonight's show?
Well, word is Kimmel's first guests will be actor Glenn Powell and Canadian singer-songwriter Sarah McLachlan. And McLachlan's appearance is particularly notable because she spoke out in solidarity with Kimmel at a Disney event on Sunday.
And real quick, where can people watch the show?
It'll still be available in many markets via traditional TV, and it can also be streamed on places like DirecTV and Hulu with live TV, depending on the market. But no matter where you are, you can watch clips on YouTube or abc.com. The show posts them there after it airs.
Thank you, Chloe.
My pleasure, Mary-Louise.
That's NPR's Chloe Bellman.
Several Western countries, including the UK, France, and Canada, have recognized a Palestinian state this week, saying it revives hopes for peace and a two-state solution. But Israel's prime minister says there will be no state of Palestine. And as NPR's Anas Baba reports, the recognition in Western capitals does not change the course of Israel's war in Gaza.
Tens of thousands of Israeli troops are advancing toward the heart of Gaza City, under the cover of deadly airstrikes. The military's goals are to displace all of Gaza City residents and occupy it. Every day, the Al-Shifa hospital fills with bodies of the dead from Israel's attack on the city, once home to 1 million people, many of whom have fled. The situation is so bleak that this week the International Committee of the Red Cross sent the hospital medical supplies along with 500 body bags. Entire families killed in Israeli attacks are being buried here on the grounds of the hospital because the city's graveyard can no longer be reached. Some are in makeshift tombs, others buried in mass graves. Here, we can see that's the family of Al-Haddad, Adil, Marwa, Abdul Karim, Muhammad, Mahmoud, Tasneem, Sham, another two, and next to me, one of the relatives that he came today to sit to them, next to them. He picked some flowers from outside the hospital. Mu'min Haddad is holding red hibiscus flowers that used to line the streets of Gaza City. He plants them atop fresh graves. He says there were 9 people, 4 of them children, killed in the Israeli airstrike in his cousin's home. 2 of the kids are buried here. The other 2 are missing under the rubble. Israel's military says it's targeting Hamas and using precise munition to mitigate harm to civilians. Haddad says his cousin Abdul Karim was his age, just 21. They were like brothers, but he says death has become a mercy in Gaza, a fate better than his life. Al-Shifa Hospital has seen mass graves before in the war. One was found in its courtyard after an Israeli raid that destroyed the complex. Haddad says the hospital has become a graveyard, and the graveyard has become the hospital. New graves are being dug here every day now. One is marked with the footboards of old hospital beds, another with window frames. The staff watch over the grave at night to keep stray dogs away. Muhammad Najjar is struggling to find clean drinking water for his 3 kids. Aid to the city is running dry. He says the decision in London and Paris recognize the state of Palestine has no real value if Israel's war here cannot be stopped. Anas Baba, NPR News, Gaza City.
You're listening to WNYC. There's more All Things Considered just ahead. NPR's Ari Shapiro speaks with author Patricia Lockwood about her latest novel, Will There Ever Be Another You?
WNYC support comes from Little Bear Ridge Road, a new Broadway play starring Laurie Metcalf and Micah Stock, written by Samuel D. Hunter and directed by Joe Mantello. Previews begin October 7th. Tickets at littlebearridgeroad.com. WNYC and its local and national news coverage are supported by the Jerome L. Green Foundation, helping to make the arts affordable and accessible to all New Yorkers for more than 40 years.
You got your tariffs and inventory complications and messy supply chains. Companies got artificial intelligence.
With AI, we're able to now ingest all of this unstructured data and make sense of it really fast.
I'm Connor Wisdell. AI meets tariff. Next time on Marketplace. This evening at 6:30 on WNYC.
And stay tuned tomorrow morning on The Brian Lehrer Show. The election series 30 Issues in 30 Days continues with issue number 3, Climate and Energy Policy in New Jersey. Plus, a free speech lawyer talks about what he says is hypocrisy on both the political left and right on the issue. That's tomorrow morning starting at 10 on WNYC. It's currently 82 degrees out there, still not feeling like fall, although this is the official first full day of fall. There's a chance of showers and thunderstorms this evening, breaking that relatively dry spell that we've been having. It's going to get down to 67 degrees. And then tomorrow, another slight chance of mid-afternoon showers and thunderstorms with a high of 78. More showers and thunderstorms predicted for tomorrow night and more into Thursday as well. It's going to cool off a little bit. You're listening to WNYC. It's just about 4:20.
Support for NPR comes from member stations and from your part-time controller, specializing in nonprofit accounting and committed to supporting nonprofits with financial management services such as budgeting and forecasting. yptc.com/NPR. And visit St. Pete Clearwater, Florida, where white sand beaches meet the arts. From the Dolly Museum to more than 500 public murals. More at visitspc.com.
From NPR News, this is All Things Considered. I'm Juana Summers.
And I'm Ari Shapiro. This might be the most meta introduction to an author interview that I've ever delivered. In Patricia Lockwood's new novel, the narrator is a novelist named Patricia, who describes a book tour to promote a previous novel in early 2021.
I am readying myself for another interview when the crowd bursts into the Capitol. I have to go get a haircut, with my phone held tensely in my lap under the barber cape, and wonder the whole time whether the Speaker of the House is having her head chopped off. The haircut itself is administered by a stylist in his 50s, who believes in me in a way that no one ever has before, but I can carry off an early 90s fly girl situation. When I step out of the salon and back into the stream of what is happening, I have a feeling that I have possibly never had before. American.
4 years ago, I was part of that book tour she describes in this latest book. Well, Patricia Lockwood's novel is out now. It's called No One Is Talking About This. That was then, this is now. Patricia Lockwood's new novel is called Will There Ever Be Another You? Tricia, thank you for joining us again for this Russian nesting doll moment.
Ari, thank you so much for having me. I remember you most of all as a man of taste. I believe we discussed the sapphires and nipple moment.
Yeah.
I was just so grateful. I was like, someone finally who gets it.
Well, I should say, I almost never interview an author about 2 books in a row, and it's a testament to you that here we are back again.
Thank you.
I don't know if that introduction left people a little disoriented, but this is a disorienting book. The way you phrase it is, I was going to write a masterpiece about being confused.
Yeah.
Why did you want to write about confusion?
I just strongly felt that no one had done that before. That was a line that I kept popping in and taking out, thinking it's a little bit on the nose. Do I really want this kind of tagline for the project? But it's really what I was doing.
Yeah,
like going through the notebooks. Yes, it's absolutely, it's a mission statement. It's my motto. I just had this interest the entire time in what I was doing in my notebook and why I was attempting to observe this thing that sort of categorically or definitionally couldn't be observed.
We're talking around this thing in your notebook. Tell us what happened to you, Tricia, the author, to help us understand the experience of your narrator.
Yes, I became extremely ill in March of 2020 with what we all know as the thing that shall not be named.
The long C word.
The long C word, the eternal C. And I immediately went into a state of disorientation, dissociation, confusion, seeing gorillas in the trees. And this state really went on for about 4 years. And so the process of writing this book really began in summer of 2020. I was doing it right away. I was like, why do I feel this way? Why am I seeing gorillas? Why am I afraid of the floors? The entire time it was documentation.
Okay, this is about to get meta again.
Yeah.
Because at one point your narrator is in England and meets an author named Susanna who struggled with illness and brain fog.
Yes.
And oddly enough, I interviewed the author Susanna Clarke in 2020 about her experience writing the novel Piranesi, and here's what she told me.
At some points during my illness, I suffered very badly with cognitive impairment, with what they call brain fog, so it had been impossible to write. But I came to a point where I felt I could write, but the pressure of all the years when I hadn't written, and all the stories I hadn't written, weighed very heavily on me.
You can imagine, as I was reading this book, I was like, wait a second, I know who she's talking about here. I did that interview with that other author. So, Tricia Lockwood, what did you learn by talking to a writer, Susanna Clarke, who had been through something so similar to what you were living through?
She was such a hero to me, and I wanted her to win so badly, just so I didn't have to give a speech, first of all.
So you meet her at this award ceremony, yes.
Yes! Now, when she did win, thank God, she grabbed me from behind. She was standing behind me, and she grabbed sort of my elbow to steady herself, and I was just like, I will never forget this in my entire life. It's Susanna Clarke, the great genius, grabbed my elbow to steady herself, and I just turned to her, and I said, I mean, this means that I'll be able to do it again.
Wow.
The fact that you were able to do it again, it showed me, I just felt in that moment that I'll be able to write another book. I'll be able to do what she did.
One small detail that I want to mention, because I bring it up whenever I'm telling other people about this book, is that you write the phrase brain fog as Brian Fog, which I find to be such a perfect distillation of kind of your writing style, where you are embodying the thing you're talking about in a way that is funny, but also more real than any analytical description of what brain fog feels like could possibly be.
It's absolutely Brian Fog. I originally had a little bit more about that, but I liked it just to leave it as that line. I was reading a lot of Reddit at that time. People were describing their symptoms. They were misspelling things. They were saying that they were suffering from Brian Fog. And I just felt that I was like, I'm on the front lines of something. I'm sort of witnessing people talk about this new illness in real time and try to figure out what it is and what might help them. But it's also funny, isn't it? A little bit.
Oh, it's hilarious. And that's one of the things that I love about your writing, is that even as you're describing near-death experiences, you're doing it in a way that takes very serious things not too seriously.
Yeah, I just think that both things are present. It was always like that in my household. And I just think you have to keep both bits in. Like, that's part of the observation. That's part of what makes it true.
Come on. Okay, so the narrator's husband has a near-death experience, hemorrhaging, emergency surgery. When he gets home from the hospital, the wife is responsible for cleaning the wound. And your own husband had an event like this. How did you think about the juxtaposition between this very visible, physical problem of the body and the experience that you and your narrator were having of this much more kind of invisible, slippery problem of the mind that you were wrestling with?
Yeah, it's such a great question. It put me back into the